Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of our podcast. And I'm here with a good friend, amazing dude all around. We met first, I think, at a leadership conference.
Yeah.
And really exciting conversations we had around trust, responsible AI, and some social aspects of responsible AI that you were looking into. And so I was really excited about that conversation. We kept the conversation going. And I was thinking, who else do we bring to share around trust, AI, human connection, and the mind? And there was no one else I could think about but you. So welcome, Tammy. How you doing, brother?
I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for having me on the podcast. It's an honor to be here. And I'm honestly impressed. I'm always impressed with the work that you do. So I'm a shout out Harry for his Ultra Shift conference back in February in Houston, where I had the pleasure of meeting you and seeing you on stage and all of your intelligence and all of your light. And so I appreciate you for being a light for the next generation and constantly putting in the work night and day to ensure that everyone across the world has an opportunity to involve themselves with AI, because as you know, most people, especially those who look like us, may not have that chance, which all flows into the conversation about responsible AI. So let's dig into it.
Right. I appreciate you sharing that, putting in all the work and working day and night, just really trying to get the message out. So thanks so much for that. So we'll dive right into it. And so, I think the subject of trust and AI is still really very dicey.
Yes.
You and I had this conversation before. It's like sometimes people think about trust as, okay, turn off the data control on your ChatGPT. Or turn off the do not use this model to improve your chat piece of the settings button. But when you think about trust, what comes to your mind, and how do you process that conversation from an AI perspective?
So I think about it this way, and before I go on, I just want to make sure this is correct. So I usually go by Tayo, not Timmy. Just want to put that out there, just in case people start doing that. It's an issue.
I'm gonna switch that. So Tayo.
Okay. Perfect. So when I think about trust, I think about two things, and it comes down to non-technical and technical, right? So the thing about trust from the non-technical standpoint is, how do you think about from what a normal consumer uses these LLM tools? How do they navigate them in a way that they trust, and to ensure that they are aware of what they're giving to these different tools? An example is Harvard Business Review. We all know the stat, right? Most people are using ChatGPT for personal therapy. All of that data that you're giving it to, they have legal grounds to use that information against you if for some reason you fall into any federal or state level crime or issue with the government. That's a problem. Not many people have that idea. So when I think of trust, is how transparent are you being to ensure that common people, or I'll call them retail people, if you will, are aware of the types of pitfalls that they may be putting themselves into by volunteering certain information about themselves. When I prompt my LLMs, I ensure that when I'm prompting it, yes, it knows who I am and what I'm doing, but I almost treat it like I'm at work, to ensure that what I'm giving it, what I'm telling it about myself, is public information, and it cannot have any further information about me. Now, on the technical side, trust is a little bit, as you know, a little bit more difficult, right? If you think about, again, right, that discriminator, who is actually deciding what that is going to judge against? What are the parameters around that? Then you think about, well, there's bias in that data maybe that's being trained on, and then say, this thing is incorrect, this is incorrect, oh, this is right. So let's think about facial recognition data, right? The police are using it in Massachusetts or in California or New York, and actually I think they might have outlawed it in New York by now. But in that regard, now we're talking about, where's a data set been trained on? What is someone saying is correct to judge someone and say they may be malicious, or they may have a certain crime factor? Who's adjusting that threshold of score? So I'm thinking about trust. I'm thinking about, who are the programmers behind that desk? Now, usually I don't want to go there, but I'm going to go there because it's your podcast. Usually those people behind that desk are of Asian descent and or white people, or potentially maybe even Indians, which is also of Asian descent. But I think about that. And now there's not a lot of representation equally across the spectrum. So someone in that room may not think, hey, wait a minute, all because someone has a hoodie on and maybe walking around with their head down and they're black does not mean that they're a threat. Now, on the contrary, it could be that is so. So how do you create more parameters for that discrimination, or sorry, that discriminator, to be able to say this is right or wrong? Same thing with reinforcement learning, same concept, or with, all the different tools that we have and the different techniques for model building. But I'll stop there because I can ramble forever, but that's where my mind goes.
No, that's really good. Like, I can't really wait to start diving deep into some of that conversation. I think some of the stories that you're sharing, very similar to the stories I was going to really be talking about today. But like, I got into it without even asking you to do a little bit of introduction about yourself, who you are, and things of that nature. So I'm just going to step back a bit and say, tell us who you are, what you do, and then we can sort of get back to the conversation here.
Okay. My name is Tayo Ade-Oshifogun, or Tayo for short. Currently the founder and principal consultant of VAI Partners, where we create AI tools to enhance human connection. All that means is simply to remove silos of work on teams, or create opportunities for people to have more psychologically safe conversation that yields an output and an ROI of engagement. I'm also the vice president at JP Morgan Chase, where I lead AI and ML use cases for intake. And all that means is simply vetting use cases or ideas and take them from ideation to production in a way that benefits not only the firm, but our customers as well.
Awesome. Can you share a little bit about what you do with the social piece and establishing those connections? What can you share a little bit about that?
Do you mean in terms of helping teams remove those silos of work?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, sure. So let's take a quick journey, or a story, if you will. Let's say you're the CEO of OpenAI. Let's say you're Sam Altman.
Okay.
And you have a large team. You have a large team of people. I don't know how many people they have. Maybe I'll call it 50,000 people, maybe 25,000 people. They're not that huge, but they're decently big. I could be way off with these numbers. Whatever they are, let's just call it 10,000. 10,000 employees. Let's say out of those 10,000 employees, maybe you have 15 LOBs: HR, marketing, sales, machine learning, super AGI, or whatever the case may be. Now, all of those different teams and sectors ideally should be speaking to each other to optimize each other's output. So the work that we do at VAI is we want to make sure that people are aware of other people's work to create that stream of connection. Now, the example I was giving was OpenAI has 10,000 employees. They have 15 or so LOBs, if you will, or sectors in their company. If sales says, hey, we just did a deal with AMD, with Broadcom and NVIDIA, et cetera, hey, we need to now think about how we're going to backtrack that with HR, but HR is not aware, or marketing is not aware, or more importantly, machine learning is not aware, then somebody might be like, I didn't know that deal was going on. I just pushed this new product out that's going to counteract that. That's a really large scale example. But think about that on a minute scale when someone may go into a meeting with Sam or someone else and they might not have that context. So these types of silos creates opportunities of what we like to call discouragement. Discouragement isn't like you got it wrong. It's that now you have this sense of, I didn't know something. So now I'm going to be a little bit more apprehensive before I go and do something else. If you do that over and over and over again, now all of a sudden you're creating a culture where people are afraid to innovate because they've been burned so many times simply by a misalignment of silos, a misalignment of sectors. So we like to ensure that that one use case is consistently built out for teams. And we do that by taking an overall assessment of where everyone is, their culture, their engagement. There's a huge survey that we do, an analysis to understand where does everybody sit, how does it work, how does everybody feel about the work that they do. And then we give them areas and gaps and say, hey, here's some areas that you should focus on, Sam. Your sales guys are really high on the engagement curve. They're good. But your machine learning team is siloed. They're stuck in one bubble. And they're missing opportunities to be able to then connect the dots back to the different teams that will honestly put more money back in your pocket because of set ROI. And that ROI usually comes from the fact of the more that people are engaged, the more they innovate, the more comfortable they are, the better results you see in their work performance, their satisfaction. Employee turnover is significantly reduced. In fact, it's reduced by 68%. And so it's I don't want to go too deep into it, but that's typically that's a small example of how these silos can create a lot of friction and misconnection.
That makes a lot of sense. And if we go back to the conversation on trust, right? And this is the reason why I was bringing that up. I feel that like you can connect those two problems together in a sense, right? Because you have like lots of data points that are very independent, but they're not together. And so when you're feeding, for example, I think there was a situation where my mom was trying to speak to Alexa and she couldn't find her accent, right? And so, yeah, she couldn't find her accent, right? You know, she's like, oh, Alexa, give me Nathaniel Bassi, but hey. And so we see these situations where like we have these data points that have really missing information or missing data. And so the output from there doesn't help to build trust. And I think that's what you were really, really getting at. Like from the data point itself, you can actually start identifying those issues. Even from data points to the models. The models, some of them, the way that they are designed in such a way that it really compromises trust.
Integration and trust.
Yeah. And so I would like you to share a little bit more about that and like sort of like the way you think about how companies should really be thinking around how they build their data sets for training, how that influences the kind of models that they use, how that influences the kind of actions that they take, the kind of policies that they create.
So it's an ethical conversation now, right? So now we're talking about holistic data integrity, and all that simply means for people who may not be familiar is if one person is creating the data set. Because let me back up. Let's zoom out. There's not enough data in the world, period, to do all the things that we're creating these large AI deals for. There just isn't.
Very true.
In fact, I think there was a quote by Elon. He said, if you took all the books on the planet ever made ever, even the ones that have been burned and destroyed, that wouldn't be even half the amount necessary to train any model, period. Which means we don't have the amount of data that we make still isn't enough, which is insane, but it's not. So data is very expensive these days. People are paying a premium for it. So be careful who you just give information to. Anyway, all that being said, now we're making synthetic data. Synthetic data means I can take an actual stream of information, let's call it 10 rows in Excel, that has 20 columns of demographic information, and create new thousands of rows just from what that model has learned on that information. Now I have synthetic information, right? So what's 10 over 1,000? That's less than 1% of that data. That's 0.1% of real data made 100%, made 99.9% of your data. So that's a problem in itself. If that 10 rows had one area that was siloed, if you will, or biased towards a certain group of people.
Yes.
So companies can solve this problem. It's not an easy problem to solve, and I don't have all the answers. Don't get me wrong. It's a very hard problem to solve. I think about these things at my own firm with JP Morgan. I'm just like, how do we solve these problems of? I think it's a behemoth of a company, so we can't just jump in and like say, let's just tinker here and think. No, it's and you have to go through legacy systems, new systems. So this is more so for small business owners. Maybe small and medium-sized enterprises, you still have control for the most part over the data that you have. So you think about holistic data integrity. Now we're saying double check. It's almost like simply intuitive to think about. You need to have this could be a new role in the future. I don't know. Maybe some type of ethical data set
Quality
checker.
assurance,
Yeah,
ethical.
quality assurance, something like that. Yeah. So, I mean, you know better than I do, but if I was a machine learning guru, I would go in and figure out how do I tune these models to make sure that we are accounting for these various standards of integrity. And now it comes to like UNESCO's report back in 2021 about ethical AI, and now we're talking about different types of reports that have come out. There needs to be a standard, and I haven't really seen a good standard per se. Maybe Wokkah can make it. I don't know. Just throwing it out there. But so to make it very practical for the business owner or for the enterprise system, look at your data set for whatever you're trying to build. Get your best people in the room. Your tech leads, architecture, data science, modeling, all your senior leaders, not just people who are just tinkering. Get the people who know this stuff the best. Put them in a room and ask the questions. Create a series of questions to say, we need to analyze the data. You can even use LLMs to actually analyze that data set. You don't have to sit there and go through every single row. But create prompting techniques around how do I ensure that this data has the proper holistic integrity that assures I don't have biased information that I'm building my synthetic data on top of, which will inherit bias down the line from my end user or customer, whether it's internal or external, right? That happens in the beginning of that build. And I wish I could go into more detail, but
no, that's totally fine.
It's kind of what we do with the firm sometimes too. So I don't want to go into too deep, but like
too much.
that's some of the practices that we create now in different companies where you need to ensure that when you're building these things up front, you have that integrity in mind. But it's costing you more time and work, so it will add to your bottom line. And it's not a 5-minute task. This is a couple of weeks, a couple of months task to double check. And you cannot just say we have 95% success. That 5% error could cost someone $1 trillion, billion-dollar problem down the line because your output was incorrect. And now the police have arrested, I don't know, Jamie Foxx or whoever, like because they thought it was somebody else. So now then anyway, you get the point.
I get the point. I get it. No, that makes a lot of sense. So just for the audience, you might hear us talk about biases and fairness, right? So biases is you have a data set that's supposed to have male and female, and you have more male than more female, right? Or you have a data set that has like people from various cultures or backgrounds. You have white, black, Asian, whatever, whatever race you associate, or various economic classes. And so basically now you have these data sets that are sort of imbalanced, and you're supposed to feed them into this model, and they're automatically supposed to sort of generate like this
perfect data set.
Perfect thing, and it never does, and so how do you think that smaller companies, like real small businesses, I'm talking your mom and pop companies that are using LLMs directly, because here's the thing, I've spoken to lots of small businesses. I just came back from a conference which you know about. And I hear everyone saying, hey, I gave my brand strategist my LLM to develop. And so they just went out and used some out-of-the-box tool. But I keep prompting it, and I'm not really getting what it is that I'm expecting to get. Like, what's the issue? And then they keep talking to me, and I keep telling them, like, hey, it's not really about prompt design, it's about process design. And so is there anything you can really share about how these smaller companies, can really start, benefiting? I think you brought up something around using the LLMs themselves to actually do the querying, but do you have anything to share about that?
So this may be where I think it comes down to having the right people in the room. I'm not a know-it-all. I'm not a model tuner. I have an idea from my data science and business analytics and engineering background, but I'm not the person doing this building the things myself. To create a process that's effective while using LLMs, you need to understand what each one is good at and what each one isn't. So out of the box, Claude, Grok, Llama, ChatGPT, etc. Each one is good at different things, right? So Claude, for example, I think most people know this, really good at deep reasoning coding tasks. Amazing. It's the best one. I think that's generally known. ChatGPT is great for your everyday tool, everyday task, everyday research. Now they're getting really great at integration, which I'm happy to see. But from a process standpoint, for a small business owner, you have to have three things in place. Going back to trust and holistic data integrity, you have to make sure that your original set of information has been vetted before you even get to the conversation of using LLM. Now, what does that mean? Because I did mention that you can use LLM to then distinguish between bias or fairness in your data set. You know the information you have. You know your customers. If you are selling beer products and you're targeting strictly African Americans, but then you want to use that information and then go make a marketing campaign for a different set of audiences, you don't need LLM to tell you that's wrong. Like, you know what I'm saying? Some things are very obvious. So if it was a large enterprise, now we're talking about a different problem. At that level, I think you may have the best answer. But I come from a background where, like, let's keep simple things very simple, right? I mentioned two things earlier. Having the right people in the room who understand the problem at hand. If you are not the guy or girl, if you're not the man or the woman who has an expertise of understanding how these models work, get Wokkah on the phone. Get someone on the phone who has the expertise to do it. Spend the money up front because you're going to pay the person down the line. Number two, outside of setting up your data set correctly and ensuring that you have vetted it beforehand. If that is already in place, you have the right audience, you have the right tools, you have the right data in place, the process now becomes, I need to ensure that I've chosen the right LLM tool. That means you've tried the LLM tools. You can't just keep trying ChatGPT and keep restructuring that prompt and saying, I'm not getting the right output. Try something else. There's a lot of them out there. In fact, there's tools where you can use all of them at once and assess every output. I actually found one.
Exactly.
I forgot the name, but if I remember the name, I would just put it in and I would plug them, but I forgot. You can try all of them at once. And the last thing I would say is after you have tried multiple outputs, pick the one that you believe is best for your business. I don't think this is a hard problem to solve for a small business. I think you know what your data is. You understand, like if you have the proper folks in the room, you understand you can try different outputs. And then from there, you can choose the one that best aligns with the idea that you have. This is where human judgment, human in the loop comes into place. I just came from a conference in Chicago, so shout out to Flex and the Flex Tech team who hosted the Upward conference, where it focused on human in the loop and the quantum and AI and the AI space for workforce development. And one thing I heard was, all of these tools are amazing, but judgment is the most important character trait that will be tangibly and, quite frankly, the most earning potential that one could have in the next 10 years. After that, I don't know, because who knows how life will go. But the next 5 to 10 years, you need to have good judgment. That's why I mentioned the right folks in the room, after you have the right data set, after you have the right mindset of what you're trying to do on the outcome. That outcome is judgment. So I want to throw the question back to you because you have a deeper understanding. No, I'm serious, because I'm doing this in real time. You're one of the experts in the room who can answer this at a technical level. I'm not it makes more sense to have a conversation about it than for someone like myself who may have some skin in the game in AI, but there are people who are smarter than me. I'll bring them into the room. I'll engage them in conversation. I'll humble myself and become a servant of them and say, hey, I'm not sure about this. I need some assistance. I will spend the money to get the best advice possible so that my customers have the best outcome possible, because that's part of my human in the loop judgment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. No, I'm with you. I agree with you there. I think lots of times, lots of people are missing in that conversation. And so we build systems that become a problem for us because essentially you've not put the first step first, right? Like it's like building a building, and you have the foundations of the building, and the foundation is really rocky and shaky because the things that need to be in the right place haven't been placed correctly. And so, of course, what you get out of it is really a broken system, completely destroyed system. And the issue is because some of these conversations didn't get had early, right? Can you hear me? I'm frozen.
I think you froze again. It might be me this time.
Oh, he's frozen, I think. Okay.
Okay, I'm back. I don't know what just happened.
Keep going. Okay. Can you hear me now? You're frozen.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. I'm back now.
Okay. So you get what I'm saying, right? So now...
Yeah, I do.
You have the data conversation. And I think the data conversation is a conversation that needs to be brought to that committee of people who really discuss, like, oh, okay, what should we really be thinking about as HR? Those that work on quality assurance, like, we have this data that should not necessarily sit here. What's the business rule that you're creating around how these data points actually get used? You see what I'm saying? You know, those conversations need to really be had to be able to get to a place of, okay, then what algorithm should we then use on this? What LLM systems should we then use on this? How are we auditing that system, and how are we evaluating what it is that comes out as an output from the system? Because a lot of people are not really doing any audits on the responses. So you feed your information into this LLM system, you feed it to your customer, you're not really tracking, okay, how's he answering questions? What if someone on the chat puts in this situation where it's like, oh, you know, I want to commit suicide, or I want to do X, Y, and Z, then how do you track all of that, right? You know, and so you have people just using the systems, jumping on the AI hype, but really not thinking deeply about how all of this comes together. And I think this leads me to my next question, which is around, like, okay, so because of this, you have two sides of the coin. You have people who are living in fear of, like, should I actually use this system? And you have people who are like, you know, like, you sort of need to have a cautious optimism around the system. And then you have people that are trying to find the in-between. So do you really think that this kind of situation creates a fear of AI replacing human connection?
I think it does. For a short answer, being straight, it does create a fear for AI replacing human connection, because so many people are using it to connect with themselves. And I think that is in itself a problem. And it didn't start with AI. Let's just be honest. We've been doing this since social media came out.
I like
right?
that.
This is not an AI problem. This is a digital media consumption problem. Before Facebook, no, we didn't have this problem. We weren't on our phones that much. In fact, I remember back in high school, I won't age myself, back in high school, I used to be like, man, I would love to be able to go on the internet on my phone. I would love to be able to go online on my phone and just check my email. In fact, I would love to have more emails, because I didn't really have them. It wasn't that big of a deal in like 2005, 2006. You know, you weren't really thinking about that. The fact that you can send text messages without having a problem was a big deal. Now let's go to present day. It is a fear-based mindset, but so is everything else.
Yep.
Right? And let me explain. With the adoption of any new technology, there's fear of replacement. I hate saying this argument because everybody says the same argument over and over again. Steam engine, electricity, light bulb, iron, insert anything. People are like, oh my God, I'm afraid of this thing. But it's just like, or dishwasher, microwave was a really big problem. Like, it was like, you're going to die if we stand next to it. We're still here. So anyway, now the AI thing is only different because it is the first technology that can generate something that you have not thought of and then do it for you. That has not existed in this grand level that we've seen today.
Yes.
But at the same time, each time we're given new technology, we have adapted to that technology and exceeded it. I don't believe humans are limited to say, AI now will just all of a sudden replace humans. It will replace the task we don't want to do. You don't want to analyze your data anyway. You don't want to do it. You don't want to actually book that reservation. You actually don't. Nobody wants to sit online and looking for which restaurant to go to. If I did, let me calm down. It's allowed the complaints to come around the fear of adjusting to a new normal. And that is why at VAI we do a really good job in ensuring that we explain the safety parameters around what we're doing first. In the workshop I did back in September in Chicago at Upward, I walked them through the problems of why there is an issue with connection in the workforce. 70% of people don't like work outings, happy hours, drink socials, and bowling and what. Most people don't like it. They want to actually sit and have a connection with you. Our framework is vulnerability, authenticity, and identity. Vulnerability creates the foundation of connection. It's a neural bond. When you and I connected, I was vulnerable and said, hey, I want to build this platform. I have no idea how to do it, but this is what I want to do. You were just like, if you can do that, that'd be amazing. That would be a great situation. I immediately thought, he's a safe place. I gave him my idea. He didn't build it himself. He could have. You still can, technically. So that invited the safety around it. Authenticity. When you called me a few weeks ago, you were authentic, saying, hey, I want to do this thing. I want to do this. I'm going here to develop this. You didn't have to say anything. You could have sent an email to me, and I would have easily been in the same place right now, and we wouldn't have the conversation. Yep. Our identities are consistent, not only in Christ, but also in the fact of who we are in our backgrounds. We don't shy away from who we are, right? That creates a concosm of connection. AI cannot replace that framework. AI cannot be vulnerable about what? About what? AI cannot be authentic. AI doesn't have identity. You give it those three things. Actually, you don't give it. You only give it identity, and then it becomes authentic for what you told it to do, and it's vulnerable for what you told it to do. You are the orchestrator of these tools. So I think people are afraid because it's hard. The world makes it feel like AI is easy. Kind of. But when you're trying to build things at scale, things that really transform the world, what hard. Sam is doing, what you're doing, what Jensen is doing, what Satya, what people are doing really fast is hard. People are working really and it's really hard problem.
Earlier. Literally, what you were saying, I was literally talking about it earlier. I was like building a startup, creating a company. I think Elon Musk talks about it. It's like eating glass in a dark room. Man, like you're consistently iterating and consistently really thinking about, okay, how do you even get it to product market fit? Then you get it to product market fit. Then how do you market it? And then like you have lots of complexities. Then to layer in the AI piece of it into the situation as well, you want to make sure that your systems are doing what it is that you expect them to do. And this is not just for us, even this is also for our customers as well. I think sometimes I get a lot of people making it seem very okay. Let me step back a bit. For a consumer, right? If it solves your problem, great. I'm glad it helped you. Right. For a producer, completely different conversation.
Yes.
Right? Because you're now serving people and you want to serve those people well. It's just like being in a house and serving a meal, and you ask your guests what it is that they want to eat first before you sometimes you serve them. You don't go ahead and serve them what it is that they actually don't like. And so you're serving a particular customer and they have specifications. They want, the meats to look this way, or the chicken to look this way, or the stew to look this way, or the rice to look this way. They want it spicy. They want it not spicy. Like, there's a variety of things that you're literally bringing into the mix when you're serving people. And that adds a layer of complexity that is really sometimes difficult to explain. You get what I mean?
The analogy, because if you take it back to the holistic data integrity piece, when you're making dinner for somebody, do you just take whatever ingredients you can get and just throw it in there and say this will work? No, you go and source out that one steak. You look up that one seasoning. My wife does this all the time. She'll be like, I need that one seasoning. I'm gonna go to the store 20 minutes away.
Exactly.
Just to get that one more seasoning for that one stew. I'm just like, babe, it's fine. She's like, no, I need this one thing. I said, okay, I'll wait, right? We do it for everything else, but we don't do it for the tools that are building our children's future. I think that's the mind shift is connection is one thing to be connected to someone in person, but we live in a digital world. Unfortunately, take it how you want it. To remove the boundaries of connection in a digital world, you have to create the guardrails to make sure that digital world is safe. Mm-hmm. Right now, there's no guardrails across the board. None. Mm-hmm. Nobody has them. It's ridiculous. I won't even go into that. I was going to go into the political landscape. I stopped myself. And so how do we create these, to answer your question from before, right, about does it create the fear? How do we solve that fear? Robert Smith at Fistler, right, he's doing some great things. He's creating programs for students at Morehouse and Spelman and other things to teach them about AI, how to use it, implement it. Education has always been the key to safety. If I didn't educate you on what I was trying to do, we wouldn't have connected. You would have walked right past me. We wouldn't be here now. Nobody would be hearing this message, etc. If Jesus didn't educate the disciples, didn't educate the church, didn't educate the Pharisees or the Sadducees or whoever, we wouldn't really have salvation. Even if he did it and no one knew about it, how will we accept it, right? If AI exists and people don't know how to use it fully, how can they accept it? They don't understand it fully. So those who are fearful, I understand. You don't get it. But once you educate around it and say, hey, this is what you can do, people's eyes start to open. They say, I can do that. I can do that. This is why it's safe. Now you're creating a safety metric that invites that VAI framework. Now you can be vulnerable with this tool and say, can I build this to solve this problem that I've had for years? Oh, yes. Can I put my own authentic voice, not your information, be careful because they can use it against you, my own authentic voice into this and create an identity that serves my own community? Yes. But it comes down to the education of safety, which is why I love what you're doing. You've created an ecosystem for people to come in and say, hey, I want to learn these skills, use these skills under your umbrella, your teaching, your education that creates safety. Now I can go to other people and say, I can help you build these things. I can teach you as well. You are training the trainer to then go and build some warriors to go fight the battle of safety and inclusion and connection across the digital landscape. That is a brilliant and a highly admirable strategy, my brother. I just want to make sure that you know that on this podcast, because that I don't think you get enough credit for the type of ecosystem that you've built. It is highly admirable, and I just had to do that.
I really appreciate that, because I think that there are very few people that are really sort of preaching this message, and when you do that, it almost appears you're not being optimistic about where AI is going. But in reality, I think we want to create an environment that is safe for everyone. We want to create an environment where everyone can thrive and live and feel comfortable. We don't want to create an environment where someone feels unsafe, right? Or abandoned, or like, and then what kind of systems do we say we are building, right? So I'm curious, what do you think that leadership in this space should look like when we talk about trust, when we talk about ethics? What should leadership in this space look like? What should an executive be thinking about when it comes to this specific space? Like, we talk about them being careful. We talk about them bringing the teams together and having conversations around what systems do you have, what policies do you guys use, what governance do you have around the things that you do, and how does that influence what it is that you're building? So it's like you're taking care of that foundation, and then you're building up on top of that foundation automation, agents, whatever it is that you want to call it, right? But how should an executive be really thinking about structuring their teams? What should they be doing in this period to make things happen?
I three things came to mind, and I'll preface this by saying these are my opinions. They're not reflective of JP Morgan Chase Incorporated. It's just of me.
Right.
And VAI Partners. So I would say you mentioned collaboration, so we can put that out because that's already been said.
Mm-hmm.
Humility is the biggest piece. I think, as you were talking, I was thinking of Sora 2, OpenAI's new video 2, not new, but the new edition of
the Sora
2.
Everybody
just had everybody using it, even Nana Bananas and different things, or Cling, whatever. You know, a lot of people are using these things, but the images they're generating are copyrighted. You can't make a picture of SpongeBob, or I don't know, what else have I seen, or of I keep saying Jamie Foxx because I just watched a movie with him yesterday. Anyway, of Jamie Foxx or whoever. You can't just be making these things and throw them out there and say, this is my art now. That's a problem. Now, because we're in such an AI race, and then I wouldn't call it a bubble, I don't believe it is, but an AI race is more so the proper term. Everybody wants to build as fast as you can. One thing I will say about JP Morgan is, because this is public so I can say this, we just released the launch of LLM Suite, which was last week on CNBC. And so that tool has been in creation for a long period of time. That particular tool took a lot of time to build, and it wasn't rushed. We had very humble leadership that says, we want to build something quickly. We want to do it the right way. If we do it the right way, not everybody has adjusted to it. There were controls around it. There were ethics around it. There was governance processes that we manage, that my team manages. Those types of things that happen have been in place for over a year, over 2 years. Sure. It's not new information. And so if you're an executive now, you say, I have to get in. I would ask you, do you? Because if your business, I'm serious. If your business is thriving and you're doing 200% year over year, 400% year over year, your operational income is doubled. I mean, you could have some AI tools. I would start small. That's why I said humility is the biggest piece. Start small. We've started very small. Hey, let's try this one thing. I manage a lot of use cases. I see a lot of things. People start small and then they scale. That's the name of the game. You started small and you scale. I'm starting small right now and I will scale. When you have children, you don't have 12 at once. You start with 1 or 2. You scale. When you scale your legacy. And so humility is the biggest piece. The second piece is, I don't want to say it again, but I have to, because it needs to be drilled in people's mind. You need to get the right people in the room. It's very important. You can't do it on your own. I have this problem now. I need more of the right people in the room to build the things I'm thinking about. So you'll be getting a text soon. And so, those types of things, the people in the room create the atmosphere and the collaboration and the connection necessary to fuel the ideas that creates the humble approach to creating a small scale tool that you can prove viability first before you begin to scale that thing. Because what you don't want to do is hurt your 400%, 200%, 60% operational income increase year over year because you spent $2 million on R&D for this one amazing tool that's great that you bought from insert AI company, and then all of a sudden it doesn't work for your actual business use case. But your old way of doing it was working fine. You don't have to always jump on the next bandwagon. Look at blockchain. Otherwise, we would all be sending Bitcoin to each other and using USDC. And I love blockchain. It's my favorite technology on the planet, more so than AI. But that's a slow build. That was 2009.
Yeah.
It's been 15 years, 16 years
since
that came out. And people are still like, what is Bitcoin? Which is mind-blowing to me. But anyway, so all that to say, humility, collaboration, and you start small. Those are the 3 keys to ensuring that you build a tool that matters, that is safe, and that is able to actually give you an ROI. We see a lot of wasted ROI right now. You've seen it more than I do. It's insane, the amount of wasted capital. Hopefully, all these deals pay out for our own investment portfolios.
I agree with you 100%. So I think one thing I'm hearing you say is it's really important, one, to have people in the room. It's really, really important, to not make the assumption that you can sort of handle things by yourself, but having those individuals in the room basically helps you to figure out, I would say, the blind spots, so that the analytic view of the solution is developed. That way you don't build a solution for people that doesn't necessarily serve them, but then at the same time you are saying you'd have spent all this money building it out, but it wouldn't really be accomplishing the outcome that you're looking for.
Exactly.
Let me ask you one question. This is a funny question. Can we automate trust?
I love this question. Have you heard of the what is Sam's project called? WorldCoin or World? I forgot the name of it. But Sam Altman made a way to essentially prove who you are using your iris of your eye to then scan onto this platform where now anytime you have any data that's uploaded, if somebody wants to verify that is you and not a bot, let's say on an Instagram comment or your credit card, or if you want to go and buy a purchase so that you reduce fraud, you can use your iris or your eye. And there's only one of those things. It's similar to the Apple iPhone fingerprint thing, but that blew up. Anyway, I want to say no, but there are ways to create methods of proving who you are digitally that can add value to an ecosystem of products. Now, trust between humans, which is the topic of our discussion. To automate trust between humans, no. You cannot automate trust. What we build are tools to point out where trust gaps lie so you can tackle trust. You can automate trust problem identification. You cannot automate building trust. I'll leave it there.
I agree with you 100%, because people change. And so, like, the same person you're speaking to now, well, maybe unless you have neural links. I was just kidding. Like, if you, like, I was listening to the guy that now works with Facebook 2 or 3 days ago, and he was saying, like, he's going to have kids when essentially, essentially when the Neuralinks project is complete. I have some opinions about that, which I'm not necessarily going to go into, but I think, I think it's really important to preserve the human connection.
Absolutely.
In everything that we do, and there's been a lot of concern from Jeffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI, around like just where this is going, and I think ultimately we are going to always desire to be connected with one another, and unless something changes with that, where our affections go towards robots.
God forbid.
Which is highly unlikely.
God forbid.
Which is highly unlikely. Then we have a big situation on our hands, right? Like, I'm reading things around like the next. I was having a conversation with someone else, and it was like, our kids might be having conversations with some of these robots. So how do you how do you how do we build guardrails around this so that things don't get rogue? But I also, on the other hand, think that we've built so much human connection over the years that it would be very hard for the whole entire human race to sort of lose that. You can have 1 or 2 or 3 people, but like, I don't know who stays in their house. Well, I'm not like that. Maybe Jason is. I don't know. So like, we're in a situation where like we stay so closed door or closed up that we're not really having any conversation with the outside. I think the human race is going to genuinely desire to do that, and as long as that desire is there, then we're not going to have any troubles.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I'm saying? So when you think about, I'm going to ask you one more question and then we're going to wrap up. Okay. So when you think about a small business who is looking to execute a project, like, would you say, to your point earlier, that getting other people in the room would be the first step in the intake process? Would you say learning about their data, or having someone who is there to learn about what their current systems are? How do they even identify who should be in the room? So think about like a small business might not necessarily know where to even start when it comes to that. So how do they even identify who should be in the room? What's that intake process? What should that intake process look like to them accomplishing their goal in such a way that encompasses ethics, good ethics, trust? One thing I like that you mentioned earlier was trust is all about transparency. So, like, if people know what it is that they're getting, like, I'll tell you a story.
Okay.
So I'm in Atlanta, and I rent this car, and this car starts showing the check engine light. So I said, well, I'm gonna have to return it. So go try to return it, and then I go get another car. So I get the second car, but the second car to add this noise that it was making on the engine. So I was like, what's going on with this? And so I had my family there with me. So I wanted my family to be safe. And so we called them and we're like, hey, we need to come return it. They were like, sure, you guys come return. So we go and we try to return it, and then the whole place is full. So we go back to the hotel. Next day, we're planning to head out to our home. And I was like, you know what? Let's call them before we go there. This one, they said there are no cars yesterday. We don't want to be in the same situation again. So we call them and have this guy, Tayo, that sounds exactly like a real human being. Like,
oh wow,
like a real human being. It's like,
that's impressive.
It was so good. I told my wife he sounded like a Nigerian. And my wife said he sounded like an Indian. But anyways, we could go into arguments on who it sounded like. Anyways, I said, at some point I was like, you know what? I think I'm talking to an AI. So I pause and I'm like, let me think about what to say. I was like, hey, excuse me, am I speaking to an AI? I was like, you caught me. And I thought that was very funny. Yeah. Why? One, because they didn't tell me initially that I was having a conversation with an AI. So I could have made an assumption that I was talking to a real person. And so I say all of this to say, like, how should a company really be thinking about this, making the choices of who they have in the room, what choices they make, how that impacts what they're trying to do?
Well, I think it comes down to one major factor, and it's you really need to develop your idea thoroughly, right? I think too many people have this whole, I'll give you an example. Oh my gosh, I have, let's say I won't say that, that's too, the example I have in mind is someone that I'm working with right now and I can't use them, so I'm trying to use something else. Someone has any type of use case where they're trying to sell something, and they say, I want to use AI to be able to create a automatic marketing strategy for XYZ company to reach 20 million people. That's it. That's what they put on paper, and they say, I'm going to do this. Okay. There's a lot of questions in that environment. So when you think about what your use case is going to be, you have to then think about what is the flow of the experience of the technology behind the use case. So now I'm saying, what's my current state? My current state is I think of the content with my marketing team, right? That's step one. I put that content on paper. Maybe I try to do some form of editing. Then I go to my content engine, maybe some kind of CRM, MailChimp, or I don't know, HubSpot, whatever, right? You put it in there, and all of a sudden you send it out to your listserv, but you're trying to increase to 20 million. So then you ask for referrals and different things you ask for. Great, that's current state. Now you're saying, I want to build this AI component to this. Well, where does it fit in your current state model? How does that correlate to that. You have to really strip it down and say, what's my step-by-step process?
Mm-hmm.
And then once I have my process down, where do I put in an LLM? Where do I put in an agent? Where do I put in agentic AI? Soon, where do I put in SGI? You know, those kind of things. You know, well, what? And once I figure out where I want to put it, what tools from that list can I pull from? So if I want to have AI agents, do I use ChatGPT? Do I use Zapier? Do I use insert your favorite agentic tool or AI agent tool? Right now, we're choosing. When you're making that choice, this is where the discussion comes from. What we had before. Well, what's my data for this choice that's going into this point in my process? Now you know for a fact. You have 4 roles already established off the bat. You need marketing in the room. You need the final approver. Is it the CEO? Is it the CMO? Is it the CFO? Who is it? Is it you? Are you the final approver? That person needs to be in the room. You need the data architect. This is probably one of the most important people on the planet that you need in the room. How is that data being orchestrated? What databases is it passing through? Is your company built upon a CRM fully? Is it all in HubSpot? Great. That makes your life very easy. Is it in HubSpot, but it's pulled from Excel, but then it goes through a process in PowerPoint that's pulled from some? How is that done? Who's doing it? Who's owning it? Because those are points of error that can happen. That all should be mapped out, right? They need to have someone in the room that says, okay, now you need legal and controls maybe, or governance or compliance. If you're a small business, okay, maybe you don't really need all those things, but maybe you need some level of legal representation because what you're doing may break some kind of law, right? So maybe you need to go through and look at the European Union Act, or depending on like where you're located, what are the U.S. laws, what state are you in, is that an issue? Like these are really big things. Now, granted, most of these problems you can solve by maybe getting that document, putting in all your information of what you're trying to do, and prompting against that and saying, hey, am I breaking any rules? Chances are it could be no, it could be yes, but maybe that's when your data engineer, or some may call it your prompt engineer if you want to call it that. I don't think that's necessary, but whoever that may be goes in and says, yeah, I prompted this way. These are the checks I put into it. This is what the biases I told to remove from it. These are the instructions I gave it. So now you have we're good?
No, you're good.
So now we have a record, a paper trail of how you built this process out. Remember, we haven't done anything. You haven't built anything. We just built out a process flow to determine who needs to be in the room. That's already 4 to 5 people. Then you have that meeting and say, okay, well, all right, team, this is what we have. This is what we're trying to. This is the current state and future state. Here's what we're trying to build. What is the next stage of how we get this done? People give their input. You go back in, then you retrace the process. And then you come in and get final approval, and you move forward. You know,
I love what you just said. I love what you just said because you basically are ending, which is, we're wrapping it up right now. We're basically ending the conversation with what we began with, right? Prompt design versus process design. Everybody is thinking about prompt. No one is thinking about process. Everyone is thinking about, like, how do I design the next, prompt to send emails out to my customers? But no one is really thinking about what processes, what are the workflows for my current system that needs to be mapped out first before I start building AI systems on top of it, right? Yeah. And the more you're able to see those things on that flow map, the easier you're able to map out, these are the individuals that I would need to be able to bring to the conversation to draw the right outcome, right? It might be a process problem. It might be a data problem. It might be a technology problem. It might be a training problem, right? Because a company might need, you might have you can have all the process flows you can ever have. If you don't have the people to do the work, it's all not going to work. It's useless. And so we do this here as well. I'm not using it as a shameless plug, but we actually do it here at Wokkah. Is we help companies assess where they're at currently. What do you need to do first? What do you need to do next? So once you identify those, it's a lot easier for you to now start saying, okay, I need a data architect here. Yeah. We need a CEO approval to be able to do this. Also, another thing that is really critical that you brought up that I think I want to highlight and double down on is having an internal AI champion.
Yes, crucial. Very crucial.
Right? Because you might be creating all these nice designs and everything, but who is going to be the lead? Who's going to take the lead on the actions that's going to take place to be able to make it happen? Yeah. And so you find yourself going through cycles with a lot of companies because no one is really taking the lead on ensuring that all of these different things that we're trying to do gets done. So who is your internal AI champion, right? And once you have that, we could go into a lot of stuff that needs to go into that. But you get my point. At least it's a good place for companies to start is look at your current workflow, identify that current workflow, start there, identify where trust might be breached within the context of the workflow, right? When we move this to here, this data point is not supposed to transfer from this department to this other department. Because if it does, then we're exposing these people's information to these people, and it really shouldn't happen. And so you create an AI agent in between that filters out that information so it doesn't get to these folks that actually need to do it. But if you didn't map that out, you just say, hey, here's the data. You guys will use it, and then all of a sudden you compromise your customers' information, you compromise your customers' trust, your ethics as a company doesn't have any governance. And so I really appreciate you coming. I really appreciate you sharing some of these details. We definitely will have you back where we actually sort of start diving deep into, okay, if a company is going to start this today, what should they do? What action should they take? Now, today, you need to create your workflow. So if you're listening to us, you're doing a small business, create your workflow. Start that action today. Map out your workflow, right? So let's use an example. So I'm an event planner, right? And I plan events for weddings. What's the workflow? Like Tayo said earlier, first thing is I contact vendors. Who are the vendors? What's their information? How much do they cost? All of that.
Where they're sourcing things from.
Right? Yeah. And then you move from there to what would these vendors need to do for you to be able to make this wedding or whatever it is, conference happen? And so you start to take all of those different things that need to be done and start asking yourself, okay, where are the places within this structure that trust could be breached? And that might be as easy as a prompt, right? It could be prompted. And so you start seeing where those loopholes are, bring people into that conversation so that it's a lot easier for you to arrive at X or arrive at Y. Right. And so does that make sense?
Yeah. And when you get to Y, when you get the approval, that's when the real fun begins.
Exactly.
And I want to make sure we caveat this with one crucial thing. The narrative around AI is very much so, build this, it works, vibe code it, you're going to build it, it's fine, don't worry about it, it's going to be perfect, everything's great. I feel like what we're communicating sounds hard, and because I don't want it to be like, I don't want to be the Debbie Downer, right? Everything worth doing is usually hard. Everything. Marriage, kids, AI, whatever. So, but generally speaking, the benefit of doing the hard thing first is that it becomes easier last. And it also has a more, let me choose my words carefully. It also has a longer impact on the audience you're aiming to actually produce something for, because they trust what you're doing, because they can see the process. Why does everybody trust? Not everybody. Why do many institutions trust blockchain? It's very transparent. How do we start? Trust equals transparency. The more work you do up front, the more you don't have to do on the back end. And the back end work, after it's already done, to go and reverse what you've done to find those points of trust and of trust integrity, that's tough. That's really hard. So it's do the hard work first. Trust me, it will pay off, and that is very transparent.
Yep. What do you want leaders? Great point there. What do you want leaders to be able to do about trust and connection moving forward? What are your recommendations as we wrap up? What do you think leaders should do to start building trust and connection?
Pay attention. That's it. I think the leaders don't pay attention. They're so wrapped up in the ROI that you're losing. Globally, as of 2024, the world lost $8.9 trillion due to a lack of engagement in companies. That's a lot of money. $550 billion in the U.S. alone. That's a lot, and it increased this year. That's a lot of money. I don't have $1 billion. I don't know if you do, but you know what I'm saying. That's a lot of money, and so it's very important that you simply just pay attention. The engagement surveys that you do, all the emails that you send, all the team calls that you have, all the happy hours that you have. Create engagement agents, not AI agents, but engagement people who are going to be the engagement agents to be able to say, hey, I'm going to monitor this and actually figure out where these gaps are. Or come talk to VAI and we'll figure it out for you. But regardless, there is a way for you to put the effort in that seems seamless to understand where these gaps are. You already have the data. This is why I tell leaders all the time. You already have the data, leader. You already have the data. Most enterprises do this. There's engagement surveys. You have the metadata. You have the emails. You can see the facial expressions. You can see the discriminant. You can see the person in the corner all day eating by themselves. Nobody is that introverted. Nobody. All right. Introversion is an invitation for one person to remove the exclamation. The exclamation is, I'm not safe. Introversion is just a matter of not being safe. I don't want to go too deep, but the main point is pay attention, use the data you already have to find out where are the gaps on my team for an engagement. How do I actually understand what my team wants versus giving them what I think they need? It's a huge gap. Gap.
So how can people connect with VAI Partners today?
So you can go to our site, VAIPartners.com. That's V as in Victor, AI. That's not a coincidence. PARTNERS.com. You can also reach me at Tayo __ on Instagram. You can also find me on LinkedIn as well. Full name as it says. Happy to connect. Happy to learn more from you as well. Whoever wants to connect, and let's build the future together. That's trusted. That's connected, and that pays attention to humans more so than technology.
Awesome. So we're going to also drop it in some of the link notes below as well. So thank you so much, Tayo, for coming. This is the beginning of more conversations around how we can continue to build trust, because I think it's really a very important part of this conversation. If Jason will let me share this, he and I were having a conversation, I think a week ago, and he was saying about how it's like, are we actually supposed to be building this? Like, are we like, what are we really supposed to be, doing with all of this going on? And we felt a sense of responsibility as a team, and we still do, to continue to really push the conversation around the conversations we're having right now. Trust, connection, but AI being an enabler to help us really get stuff done. So I think you share the same sentiments as well from the discussion. Yeah.
Thank you all for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here, and I do want to talk to you more about the bigger thing that we're trying to build. I think it can transform the lives of many people in the corporate environment, but more on that later.
Yeah, I'm always down for those conversations. So looking forward to that. All right, then. Take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.